Then Sasha now with us. He's actually speaking about the last 5 years with Startup Autobahn, and as well he's bringing some case studies from our location in Stuttgart. So with this, handing it over, and let's see if I can play it and you can hear it. Perfect. I will turn off my camera again.
Since its inception, Startup Autobahn has achieved many great successes. Over the course of 10 programs, 300 startups from 43 different countries have been accelerated, collaborating on over 400. Over the course of 10 programs, 300 startups from 43 different countries have been accelerated, collaborating on over 400. Over the course of 10 programs, 300 startups from through open innovation and has produced real results. Europe is experiencing a gold rush of startup activities, and many corporations are now more reliant than ever on the agility and expertise of young tech companies to drive R&D activities within their businesses. However, it is important to remember that this was not always the case. Only a few years ago, for many corporates looking to collaborate with startups, Silicon Valley was the hub of scouting technologies, and it required frequent trips to California to find what they were looking for. This is where, in 2016, the founding partners enter the story. For Mercedes-Benz, Plug and Play Tech Center, University of Stuttgart, and Arena 2036, the objective was to bring the two worlds, startup and corporates, together to create a reimagined format in Germany. They wanted to build a platform to attract startups from around the world to Stuttgart to develop an effective and efficient infrastructure for corporates to work with external tech experts in their own backyard. Today, Startup Autobahn has grown to become Europe's largest open innovation platform, connecting startups with industry-leading partners to pilot disruptive technologies and drive successful production-ready implementations. The platform has grown from the 4 founding partners to now 29 founding, anchor, and ecosystem partners, including 3 OEMs and numerous Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers, representing an entire mobility value chain. The Startup Autobahn platform has expanded its reach to include technologies shaping not only the future of mobility, but also production, enterprise, and sustainability, developing beyond borders. This approach has played a role in positioning industry-rich Stuttgart on the map as a valuable spot for innovation activities to thrive. In celebration of 5 years of Startup Autobahn and almost 200 events later, this video will highlight key moments of technological collaboration and their impact on the greater innovation space. This platform has been home to an influx of green progress in car production, from smart materials made from eco-friendly rattan wood, preserving Earth's rainforest, to 3D printable plant-based plastics. New vehicles are being equipped with new materials, breaking the cycle of dependence on harmful old materials. Project teams have shifted the way drivers experience navigation, developing 3-word address systems that enable series production cars to navigate in previously unmapped zones. The future of autonomous mobility through teleoperation is being led from a collaboration by the only industry-approved LiDAR sensors and associate software, and car competitions are being radically altered with the world's first autonomous series. The passenger experience has entered a new realm with the development of highly immersive, motion-synchronized VR in-car experiences unlike anything before. Thanks to past program collaborations, companies can now adapt training content and assistance through AI-generated video content and 3D humans. And employees across industries will have increased safety and support through GDPR-compliant messenger apps to keep them informed. Alumni startups are leaders in process mining and have become some of the highest value tech startups in the United States and Germany, even being acquired by the world's leader in robotic process automation. Assembly lines have been brought into the 21st century with modular production platforms and digital twins. And through valuable collaboration, project teams have even discovered that it's possible to visualize smell and convert it into digital code. The process of converting waste into automotive-grade interior parts has shifted the way household trash can be repurposed, and the world's first car part made of CO2 came from a successful partnership right here in Stuttgart. It's important to mention that these highlights represent only a fraction of the results of the past 10 programs. Looking back to the early days of the platform, it would have been nearly impossible to predict all of the growth, achievements, and pivots that have since taken place. Looking forward, we strive to remain agile and accessible to innovators around the world, find and connect the most talented startups with the business unit experts of our Startup Autobahn partners, and maintain an efficient and effective platform for R&D, a true testament to our origins.
Yep.
What are we doing now? I think it's the 5 years here are made, but I'm really excited to spend the next 5 years with all of you. What's happening now?
It feels great, right? So, you accelerate more than 100 startups a year, and plug and play targets to invest 20 startups a year. It looks great, and I think I'm confident with the existing setup. We have really two exciting, enterprising, and powerful women backing us. One is our own Mamata Chamarthi, who is the global head of software business and product management from Stellantis. And the second key supporting stakeholder here, Vandana Prasad, the chairwoman from People Tech, right? So what do you think, Hannah, with these two women backing us, do you think that accelerating 100 startups a year and investing in 20 startups a year is a possibility?
At least if you have so much competent people in the team and you need the drivers behind it, I think there's a really bright future for all of us. And with this, I would like to hand over to the two powerful women in the room.
Yeah. So, we have as a starting point these two stakeholders, and we have about 60 people, 60 companies from Mobility Cluster participating on the call today. And I'm sure in the coming days, more and more people would join the network and be a part of this open innovation platform. First, let me call out Mamata Chamarthi here, Global Head of Software Business and Product Management from Stellantis, to express your views here and how do you want to take this forward? How do you see this? What lies ahead for us?
Thank you, Omar. Hopefully, Hannah, you can hear me okay.
Sounds perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So how do we take this kind of a partnership between Plug and Play, which is a digital accelerator, Stellantis, which is a fourth largest automaker? We've done this in Detroit, and as Sasha or Soban has pointed out, we are working with two startups in Detroit. Miles is one startup where we have introduced this rewards program across our Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram brands with the intention to expand it to our other brands. So first, I would like to start with who is Stellantis. And not a whole lot of people know who Stellantis is. Stellantis is created with the merger of Fiat Chrysler, an Italian-American automaker, with PSA, which is a French-German automaker. So I think two largest brands or two largest companies came together to create the fourth largest global automaker in the world. And as soon as we came together, we created a very powerful purpose or a mission statement. And as our CEO, Carlos Tavares, says, powered by our diversity, we lead the way the world moves. That's our intent, that we don't want to be a laggard, we want to be a leader. We want to be a leader in autonomous driving. We want to be a leader in electrification. We want to be a leader in connectivity. We want to be a leader in shared mobility. So these are the 4 disruptive trends that are happening in the automotive industry. And from a customer perspective, as soon as a device gets connected, our customer expects that the device stays fresh all the time. So now the car is a connected device. And as soon as the car becomes a connected device for them, they expect that the operating system will always be upgraded. And not only that, there would be new apps that are launched in the car all the time. And on top of it, that artificial intelligence is used to personalize, to hyper-personalize the product, because the customer does not want a one-size-fits-all anymore. They don't want that experience. They want a hyper-personalized experience to me. And I also want this experience to be personalized to my moment of need. I think I was explaining it to the French Consul General, Mr. Thierry, that, in the morning, even for me, in the morning when I'm traveling from my home to Auburn Hills, I may go in a Jeep Grand Cherokee, but in the afternoon, if I have to go get some stuff for home improvement, I want a truck. And in the evening, when I want to go to a nice dinner with my husband, I want to go in a Maserati. I don't want to go in a truck, or I don't want to go in a Jeep. So just during the day, my need of mobility changes. So you cannot expect the customer to lease a car or loan a car for a year or 2 years and expect them to be happy. So this one-size-fits-all method does not change. So we've launched what's called Free to Move, which is a mobility as a service platform. So our customers can lease or get a car as a service for a few minutes to a few years, including insurance, including maintenance, and if it's an electric car, including the electrification packages. And during the software day, we have launched what we call 3 AI, artificial intelligence-driven platforms. And I know this year or last year, or this year and last year, both the government of Telangana has been focusing quite a bit on AI. We launched 3 AI-driven platforms. One is called Stellar Brain, because the car needs to be updated all the time. The Stellar Brain is the new electrical architecture that makes all of the components connected and over-the-air updatable. So starting in 2024, all of Stellantis' vehicles will be 100% over-the-air updatable. 2024 to 26, all 14 of our iconic brands all over the world will be over-the-air updatable. That is a very aggressive target. And that's why I say we don't want to be a laggard, we want to be a leader. And the next AI platform is Smart Cockpit. So increasingly, the customers don't want to touch the head unit. They want to speak to it. Or they may want to just look at a parking spot and just through gesture, convey to the car to go to the parking spot. So the Stellar Smart Cockpit is all about hyper-personalization using artificial intelligence to suit the needs of the customer. And the third platform is Stellar Auto Drive, It's around autonomous driving. So there are 5 levels of automated driving. Levels 1 through 3 are augmenting human intelligence. Level 4 and 5 are fully automated, where you don't need a driver's license anymore for levels 4 and 5. So up to level 3, we partner with BMW. We have a collaboration, and we've already demonstrated the level 3 autonomous driving. Once the regulation is there, we will introduce that into the market. And for levels 4 and 5, we partner with Waymo. It's a Google company. And we've also said with all of this, we are going to create a new line of business for Stellantis. It's no longer going to be traditional automaker revenue. We are going to make 20 billion euro in revenue by 2030 at margins similar to tech companies. So our goal is to transform from a traditional automaker to a sustainable mobility tech company. We've introduced 4 electric vehicle platforms: Stella Small, Stella Medium, Stella Large, and Stella Frame, to suit the size of the vehicles and the chassis of the vehicles, so that we can also introduce these kind of vehicles, Stella Small, in price-sensitive markets like India. And you may be thinking, what is the role of plug and play and what is the role of India? First, let me talk about the role of India. In India, there is a lot of software talent. All of these AI platforms that I've talked about. And the car itself is becoming increasingly software-defined. And all of the semiconductors and electronics, India is the hub for that kind of talent. So we want to get the talent from India and offer this talent at a global platform, at a global scale. So local for global. And the next is the Indian market is also increasingly important for Stellantis. We have not only launched the Jeep vehicles a couple of years ago in India, but we are launching the Citroen next year in India, and increasingly launching electric vehicles in India as an important market for Stellantis. So that's why India is very important as a market and also for talent. And coming to plug and play, as we transform ourselves from a traditional automaker into a sustainable mobility tech company, we need agility. We need to accelerate our transformation. By bringing startups at a global scale, we can create that kind of agility, because startups are agile, but they don't know how to scale. And Stellantis knows how to scale. And so this kind of a marriage between someone like a plug and play and Stellantis would be the perfect match for our overall acceleration of Stellantis from a traditional automaker into a sustainable mobility tech company. And so I'm very proud of my team that's here to support the event today. So thanks, Praveen, Zamir, and Sai, Poonam, and Ganapati, and Karan. I also consider you part of the team. So thanks for joining me today. And so powered by our diversity, we would like to lead the way the world moves.
Thanks, Mamata. From your conversation and your message, it's very clear that car is slowly turning into a piece of software, right? So it's all about software now, right? So thank you again. And thank you for being a constant support and a push for the mobility cluster. Now, let me request Vandana Prasad, the chairwoman for People Tech, and for Starters People Tech. I've seen them for almost more than 5 years now. 2 years back, I was here, and they were trying to consider a building about half this, and now they have this full building, and they're completely brimming, and they've, I think, doubled in capacity over the last 2 years. A fast-growing company in the mobility space. So we thank you again for being an anchor partner for the plug and play in Hyderabad. Vandana, please.
Thank you so much, Amar, for introducing us in a great way. We're really pleased to be here today announcing our unique partnership with Plug and Play and the Telangana government, People Tech Group, and our venture investment arm, Triangulum Labs. We want to welcome everyone who's joining us here in person and virtually, and a special welcome to Mamta and our Consular General, Mr. Thierry. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. So we're also very excited to be partnered with Plug and Play and the Telangana government to bring Plug and Play, one of the largest and most successful new venture accelerators in the world, in India especially, opening up a massive new channel for Indian entrepreneurs, investors, and customers worldwide. So we're pleased to be here at the premiere of this new innovation center hosted by People Tech and our venture investment arm, Triangulum Labs again. We are understandably elated to use this facility and partnership to be in position to help entrepreneurs and startups in India to reach the global market. So as a proud host, let me tell you a little bit about People Tech Group and our venture arm, Triangulum Labs. People Tech is a software integrator focused on helping enterprises, both large and small, leverage the cloud and advanced technology to develop state-of-the-art mobility solutions. We do this for very large companies like Microsoft and Amazon, and large mobility players like Lucid Motors and General Motors. In fact, General Motors, our largest customer, is a recent joinee of Plug and Play's mobility practice. At General Motors, we develop the software and drives their in-vehicle displays, just as Mamta was explaining to all of us. And that you will see and touch behind the steering wheel and in the center stack in the dash. So as you all know, there is so much innovation happening in mobility today with autonomous driving, AR, VR, advanced machine learning, and the connected vehicle of the future. All that is explained by Mamta again. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, but in addition to working with some of the largest companies of the world, we're also very much enjoying working with entrepreneurs. So we naturally started working with startups when some of the people we know and work with ventured out on their own and looked to us for assistance in building their initial launch project. So I personally really enjoy working with the entrepreneurs that are passionate enough to take a risk to build a product at service that they've dreamed about. So, and that is why we have formed Triangulum Labs. So Triangulum is a venture lab looking for startups that need the assistance of an enterprise bridge and wide gap that exists between startups and the large global OEMs. There are three key things we look for in a startup. First, we seek startups where an innovative use of technology is core to the value proposition, where their business model is literally specialized in skills and scale that the People Tech group of companies can provide them. And the third, the second most, we look for startups that can really take advantage of the specialized skills. And the third, the most importantly, that entrepreneur and company leadership has deep insight in their customers' needs and that they have the passion to drive their product to market. So because we know firsthand it isn't easy to be an entrepreneur, you have to do a whole lot of things just right. And that's why we are here to help. So it is really an exciting time to be in mobility with all of the technology that is coming to force, that is going to be dramatically be changing the driver and passenger experience the years ahead. So we are pleased to be here with you today and excited to see the innovative ideas and technology that Indian entrepreneurs will bring. So with that, I will turn back over to you, Amar. Thank you so much, and all the best to everybody working on this.
Thank you, Vandana. If you see the facility here, it is really revved up nicely. I think Hannah, are you there? You'll be very happy when you come here physically. You can look around the facility. It's beautifully done. So you have all of that for you. And I wouldn't reveal this, but there is like a very exciting company in the EV space who is going to come and take a few seats here. I wouldn't want to announce it, so maybe I'll talk to you after this, Mamta, surely. But this space is really cool. You have to come and see, right? So next, yeah.
Actually, I saw a lot of pictures. It's a really nice office, and I think you actually brought a video for today. If you want, I'm happy to share it.
Sure.
And then everyone actually can experience it.
Okay.
And then we will jump over to our external keynote just afterwards, I would say. Okay, let me record my screen, and then I will play the video, and afterwards we go over to you, to Westbridge.
Okay, sounds good.
Now we go.
Cool. Should we invite Rishi Desai, the principal at Westbridge Capital, to do a keynote here?
Hi, everyone. Hi, this is Rishit here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. Quick introduction about myself. So my name is Rishit. I'm principal here at Bangalore office of Westbridge Capital. We're one of the leading investment firms in the country, and we're very excited that PNP is coming to India. We've had an opportunity to so far partner with them on one of the investments, which I'm sure is just the beginning. And I wanted to talk to you guys for the next 10 to 15 minutes about what's really happening with Indian startup ecosystem, the landscape, how it's changing, and what trends we're seeing as investors on the ground for the next few years. So yeah, maybe Hannah, you can maybe move to the next slide, and I'm happy to sort of walk everyone through the PPT that we put together. So this is a little bit about Westbridge Capital, just by the way of introduction. We've now been doing investing in India for the last 20 years. We're the first venture capital firms to be focused on India. And we ran that very successfully for the first 6 years. And in 2006, when Sequoia wanted to come to India, we partnered with Sequoia. We ran Sequoia India for 5 years between 2006 and 11. 11, we moved out of Sequoia to restart Westbridge, which is the current fund that we run. We now manage about $7.5 to $8 billion of capital, all focused on supporting and growing Indian entrepreneurs who are solving problems for India or for the world. And we had the fortune of actually partnering with one of the plug-and-play investing companies, Turing, where we've now successfully led 2 rounds, and we're very happy and proud of this investment, and look forward to many similar such investments. That's a little bit about us. On the next slide, Hannah, just talking very briefly about myself. I've been at Westbridge now for close to 7.5 plus years. I have 10 plus years of experience in investing, most of it which is focused on India. I did my engineering from Singapore. After that, I worked at equity investment banking and then Bain Capital for 3 years, looking at late stage investments in technology and business services in India. I did my MBA from Morgan after that, and then since then I've been at Westbridge. I spent a couple of years in our California office, and the last 5 plus years here in Bangalore. So that's a little bit about myself. The next slide. Yeah, so I think this slide kind of captures a little bit of what I wanted to sort of convey, which is now India is now one of the leading startup ecosystems around the world by most metrics. If you look at the number of companies that have crossed $1 billion valuation, which is generally sort of a good metric to track for large company formation, it's now, if not top 3, top 4, easily amongst top 5. There's about 20,000 startups that have been funded over the last 5 to 10 years in the country. We have one of the highest number of engineering graduates graduating every year, much higher than probably the rest of the world combined. 600 plus million internet users and lots of incubators and accelerators. So this just goes to show how vibrant the ecosystem has become over the last 5 to 10 years. And we truly believe at Westbridge that this is really just the beginning, and we see no reason why India can't be the leading ecosystem for technology and startups over the next 5, 10 years, both focused on India and globally. Okay. And going to the next slide, we'll walk you through why some of this transformations really happened over the last few years. So many of you in the audience, I'm sure, are very familiar with this, but just recapping for everybody's benefit, I think several changes happened over the last few years that have really bolstered the tech and startup ecosystem. Smartphone penetration was next to nothing 10 years back, and now 1 out of 2 phones are smartphones. Practically everybody, in urban India has a smartphone. The data consumption now is 2x the global average, and is again grown 20x in the last just 5 years, supported by the fact that India has one of the cheapest cost of data around the world. And UPI, which I'm sure many of you are familiar, it didn't exist before 2016, and today there's 100 billion plus worth of transactions that are happening on a monthly basis on UPI. So all of this is just some of the metrics to show how quickly change has happened in Indian startup ecosystem over the last 5 to 10 years. And this is really just the beginning. But all of these things individually and together are sort of leading and creating the right conditions and infrastructure for young entrepreneurs to go build companies on top of this infrastructure. So this really we believe is one of the main reasons for transformation that we've seen over the last 5 to 10 years. Going to the next slide. And the other reason, which I'm sure you're very, very familiar, we discussed, we have one of the highest number of engineering graduates around the world. We have 7 times more engineering graduates on an annual basis compared to the US, and at probably 1/7 the cost. And this is the other reason why increasingly global tech is being formed in India. It's much easier to hire high quality engineer today, probably in many parts of the country, compared to with the rest of the world. And they're much more affordable. And this is really the backbone, the talent backbone on which many of the wonderful startups that we sort of take services from is being built. Going to the next slide. And this is the change that has happened in India over the last 5 to 10 years. We now have 2nd largest number of internet users around the world, 3rd largest number of e-commerce shoppers around the world. And all of these changes have happened literally in the last 5 to 10 years. If you go to the next slide, and today if you look at the e-commerce penetration in the country, it's about 4 to 5%. And this number again was 5 to 10 years back was a very low number. But this is really just the beginning. We do believe that e-commerce penetration around the country, today Indian retail is worth about 800 billion to $1 trillion by different estimates. And already about 40 to 50 in FY21, FY22, maybe about 40 to 50 billion is already being transacted online. And that number itself has grown at 30 to 50% over the last 5 years, and is likely to continue to grow at 25-30% overall over the next 5 to 10 years, which means there could be many opportunities for young companies to come and help move the large retail spends in a country in online, and that will lead to many new business models, many new company formation. And we do believe that over the next 5 to 10 years, 1 out of every $10 spent that consumers will spend in India will move online. And this will continue to move towards 20-30% over the coming years. It just goes to show the rapid and phenomenal transformation that we've seen around us in the last 5 years and what could happen over the next 5 years. The next slide, not only commerce, but even software. India is now home to companies that have more than $5 billion of software revenue, which was practically 1/5 in 2015. There are thousands of companies that are now building software for not only Indian enterprises, but also global enterprises. And I think I'm getting a message saying audio glitches. Are you guys able to, is everybody able to hear me?
Yes.
We hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. So just checking. Yeah, so again, these are very impressive numbers from our perspective. When we look at things from an investor perspective, you don't see overall markets growing at 30, 40, 50% year on year in almost any other industry. These things are changing the way essentially companies are functioning. Very large percentage of companies in India now are adopting technology in various functions, including HR, customer support, finance, and many different areas of their businesses very rapidly. Okay. Moving to the next slide. Yeah, and similar to what we've been speaking about, for last 5 to 6 years, every year there is more than 1,500 tech startups that have been funded. The amount of inflow towards young company formation is only going up. As you can see in this chart, that number was about 20 billion 5 years back in 2016. And just this year, and the year is not even fully over, in 2021, more than 60 billion has already been invested in young startups, technology or otherwise. And we do believe that this trend will likely continue at a rapid pace going forward. Not only large amounts of dollars are coming into the economy, and these companies are able to attract marquee investors from all over the world, we also see very strong new company formation. So it's just not that the old or the big well-known names, like maybe I'm sure you're familiar with the large names like Zomato, Swiggy, and Paytm, some of them, but even the young company formation is very strong. So if you see the bubbles below the slide, in fact, in 2021, the highest percentage, seed plus Series A investment is 38%, which is highest it's ever been, which goes to show that a lot of new companies are getting formed at younger stages to propagate new business models and take care of and go after new business opportunities, which is really encouraging from our perspective as we see a lot of innovation coming into the ecosystem. Okay, going to the next slide. And I'm sure you've heard of this. We've recently witnessed over the last 6 months a number of IPOs at very high valuations. Now, granted, the valuations could be a little frothy, but it just goes to show the faith both domestic and global investors have in the quality of companies being formed. Not only companies are getting listed in India, as several of these names that you're very familiar with, we also have seen Indian companies now listed on NASDAQ. So Freshworks and PubMatic with 2 IPOs this year. And we know that many others are likely to go public over the next few years, many of which are actually in Westwich portfolio. And so we will see a continued trend where Indian companies will continue to go attract attention and dollars from not only investors on Indian stock exchange, but also on global stock exchange, where investors have option to invest in many other kinds of companies from all over the world. We see that as a really encouraging trend, actually. Okay. The next slide. Yeah, and this is a really interesting slide that I found while doing research for this presentation. What was surprising is now a large number of founders that are coming today and forming companies are experienced founders. They've actually scaled some of the businesses, technology businesses over the last 10 to 15 years. And so the quality of founders that are coming, quality of entrepreneurs that we're seeing across the ecosystem is improving with every passing year. So now we have more than 250, 300 startups that have been created by employees of very high performing companies like Zoho, Freshworks, Stoa, Innovation, Mindtech, Stacks, and many others. So these founders who've already seen many of their previous companies where they were employees scale very rapidly, and they know how to essentially take a young idea, a fresh idea, and scale very rapidly, both in India and globally. This sort of know-how to scale startups and the management capability was not available 10 years back. And we see that as a highly encouraging trend because these founders tend to make far less mistakes. They're much more savvy, they're much more ambitious, and they're thinking global from day one. And this we see as a very encouraging trend that the quality of companies that are getting formed today is likely to be far higher than the quality of companies that got formed over the last 10 years. So this is a great leading indicator of high quality company formation. Okay, going to the next slide. And as a result of that, as many would have experienced or heard or read in media that many of the Indian startups are copies of Western models. There is an Uber for India, there is a TikTok for India, there is a Twitter for India, and so on and so forth. And while that's true, we've seen that that's a natural progression across ecosystems, startup ecosystems all over the world. The first few startups that came up in other geographies as well were very much inspired by what happened globally. But what we see now in parallel is also new business models that never existed anywhere else in the world coming out of India. So Postman is basically the API collaboration tool for developers for all over the world. Innovator, we know, is a leading healthcare platform in the US. Freshworks is a leading sort of customer support software for SMBs and mid-market companies around the world. Urban Clap, which is a home services business, is expanding rapidly in many Southeast Asian, Australian, and other geographies. So these are companies for which no good parallels exist around the world, but they're getting formed for the first time and not only being successful with Indian customers, but very successful with global customers. So this, again, we see as a very dramatic change and something that's accelerating with every passing day and a month. And we see this as a very encouraging trend for Indian startup ecosystem. Okay. And some of the things that we think will happen over the next few years is traditional companies will also realize that more and more customers are interacting with, more and more companies are interacting with customers or other companies through a tech interface, a digital overlay, and they will feel a need to digitize very quickly. And we're already seeing some trends of that. We have many portfolio companies, any investment companies in our portfolio that take advantage of that, that trend. Like we discussed on the previous slide, we see more and more global products and services coming out of India. And companies in India are not only now building for India, but for the world. And given the fantastic company creation, we do believe that there will be strong funding momentum in Indian startups over the next 5 to 10 years. The next slide, I think the role, for example, that we see, for example, PNP and for other ecosystem partners is helping sort of the more traditional or legacy companies bridge the digital gap. Because many of these companies are formed 15, 20, 30 years back, and they may not have the modern data or modern technology infrastructure in those companies. But there are many startups that are coming up that are enabling these traditional companies to actually be more digitally savvy. And we have several companies in our investment portfolio. For example, Credgenics is the leading collection software for banks. So it basically digitizes the bank's collection processes and brings them to sort of the modern ages using AI and ML. Digio is another company that we're aware, which basically helps with onboarding, KYC, digital signatures for banks, for capital market trading companies, for example. Ace Turtle is a good example of a software company that's helping traditional retail, offline retail, build omni-channel capabilities. Skit and Yellow are two companies that are helping automate customer support functions across all traditional industries using AI and ML. So we see a large role for startups to not only build new markets, but also help traditional companies take advantage of the digital and AI ML capabilities. And that's where we feel like PNP would play a huge role in bridging that gap. and we're very excited about that. I think those are some of the things I wanted to talk to you about. I don't have any other slides, but happy to take any questions if we have time, but really enjoyed speaking with you.
It's a great presentation, Rishit. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Yeah. So it was a lot of information. First thing, it's like fantastic information, and it's very encouraging to get into this space. A lot of people are watching you, and I think this really encourages the companies who are out there on the conference call to get into this open innovation platform and do something, because there's a lot of opportunity here, and that's what your presentation really shows. And we'd be glad if you can share that presentation. We would like to see some of those. I think a lot of the important information we would like to share with some of the people who are not there on this call as well, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. More than happy to do it. I'll send across copy after
Sure.
the review, but
Yeah.
absolutely.
And we also have MSR, who is the CEO of T-Hub. He's also there, and I think this is sweet music to his ears as well. We'd all get together on this and try to see what best we could do on this platform that Plug and Play has established here. Thank you once again, Rishit. Thank you. Now, it's my pleasure to invite our Principal Secretary, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, IAS, to deliver the closing comments and what the state has to offer to this platform and what we see as future for us here with Plug and Play coming in.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amar. Greetings to folks from Plug and Play, Saeed, Sasha, Soban, Hana. Greetings to all the dignitaries who are here in this room. Greetings to all the participants. It's a matter of great happiness for all of us to welcome Plug and Play here to Hyderabad. First of all, I would like to convey the greetings of our Minister, Mr. KT Ramarao. He was extremely excited about this development and personally wanted to be present. But at the very last minute, yesterday, our Chief Minister decided to make a sudden trip to the neighboring state of Tamil Nadu and asked the Minister to accompany him. But all the same, he's delighted that Plug and Play is now starting their footprint in India. And they have chosen Telangana and Hyderabad to create their first Indian office. We would like to run through a very quick short presentation to explain about the overall innovation ecosystem in our state, in our city. And this will be of tremendous assurance to the folks at Plug and Play that you have chosen the right gateway to India by looking at Hyderabad. So let's run through this short presentation. Next one, please. Telangana, as you would have figured out by now, is the youngest Indian state. This state was created 7.5 years ago. And normally, if you look at the earlier experience of creation of new states, the last time new states were created was in 2001. And typically, if you look at how those new states have performed, 20 years have gone by, you will notice that they start reaching some level of economic growth, economic dynamism, typically in their 15th year, 16th year, and so on. So typically it takes more than a decade and a half for them to start getting counted or start getting reckoned as a significant state or a serious state. But what Telangana has been able to achieve in 7 years is mind-boggling. I mean, people who understand Indian economy, who have studied Indian economy very, very deeply, even they find this to be a marvelous story. How much economic growth and buoyancy Telangana was able to achieve within, let us say, 3 years of its existence, 5 years of its existence, 7 years of its existence. It has now become one of the top performing states in terms of our contribution to the Indian economy. You can see lots of numbers on this slide. In fact, we always feel very proud to show or to tell that while we could be the, let us say, the 11th largest state in terms of size, the 13th largest state in terms of population, but when it comes to the contribution to the economy, to the per capita income, to the GDP or the GDP growth, we are always in the top 3, 4 or so. So in that sense, we are punching way, way above our weight. Next one, please. And of course, all that has been possible because of a very clear vision, a very strong direction on what should be the flagship areas where the government should intervene, what should be the role of the private sector, what kind of enablement is required of the startups, of young entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. And because of the overall congenial investment climate, Hyderabad and Telangana today have become the go-to destination for some of the most marquee names in different verticals. As you can see on this slide, we are home to some of the topmost tech companies. In fact, this statistic will really make you wonder. Hyderabad today houses the second largest campuses of the 5 most valued companies in the world, and 5 most valued tech companies in the world. And you can see their logos on this slide. We are also very strong in BFSI. We are the national hub of the life sciences industry. Similarly, for aerospace and defense, the who's who of the world are present here. And the same is true of automotive, technology service providers. We have run out of space on this chart. Otherwise, we would have shown to you what kind of progress we have made, let us say, in the electronics industry, in the food processing industry, in the textiles industry, and so on and so forth. And the list is not confined just to the domestic players. We attract investments left, right, and center. Let us say large number of American companies are present here. We have a rich presence of European companies, companies from Japan, from Korea, from Taiwan, from China, from Middle East. I mean, the who's who of the world are present here. And the amazing thing to share with you is that many, in fact, quite a large number of them, having discovered India through Hyderabad, they have started ramping up their presence in phenomenal ways. So many of them have reinvested, have brought their third investments, fourth investments. So there's no stopping to the flow of investments that comes to the city of Hyderabad and to the state of Telangana. Next one, please. One of the main reasons why this happens is because of the high quality talent that we are able to provide to the industry. And as this chart shows, there are some of the top class educational institutions, R&D institutions here, but we have also designed programs and a platform in such a way that all these academic institutions, R&D institutions are extremely sensitive to the needs of the industry. See, this is not very true of many other comparable Indian cities. We get this feedback quite often. I don't want to name any city or run down any city, but we do hear this feedback that there could be great institutions elsewhere as well. But many of them or most of them continue to do their own siloed academic work or research work. They don't really interact with the industry. They are not concerned about what the skill sets needed in the industry are. But things are very different in our state. Every academic institution has a very deep connect with the industry. In fact, members of the industry serve on their boards, on their governing councils. There's a very easy system of flow of information on feedback, etc. And in fact, many industries commend us for our ability to provide talent which can be deployed on live projects right from day one. So this is another advantage of investing in Telangana, that you can hit the ground running right on day one. And as I said, in many other comparable states, companies actually spend anything between 3 months to 6 months to 9 months in reorienting, retraining, and stuff like that. So in Telangana, we have successfully been able to bring that wait period literally to 0. Next one, please. We also, next slide, please. We also have a very strong value proposition on infrastructure. Hyderabad is rated as the best Indian city in terms of quality of living. In fact, there is a global rating agency called Mercer. They rank all the cities of the world, all the major cities of the world, that is, in terms of the quality of living. And of course, I can admit this, that Indian cities come fairly late in that list. but the first Indian city to make it on that list is Hyderabad. And this has been happening for the past 6 years, year after year after year. We are considered to be a city which has the best traffic speeds. There is no congestion, affordability. In the earlier slide, I spoke about the quality of talent, but I forgot to mention that the talent is also extremely affordable. Again, if you look at the other comparable cities, you may be paying 30% more, 40% more to the same quality of talent, which you get at a lower cost in Hyderabad. And the third important thing about the talent is that the attrition rates are also some of the lowest. In fact, we have data to show that, again, I don't want to name any particular city, but eventually it happens in the technology world in India that the choices eventually boil down between a Bangalore and a Hyderabad. And I can now tell you that the attrition rates in Bangalore typically are 12% to 14%, while they are just about 3% to 4% in Hyderabad. The same quality talent, the same organizational culture, same salaries, everything is the same. Companies there lose 12% people, while they lose just about 3 to 4% people here. So affordability is there for the real estate as well. The social infrastructure in terms of housing, in terms of schools, in terms of healthcare facilities, the ways of connectivity. In fact, the Hyderabad airport was one of the first private airports to have been set up in the country and wins awards regularly for being one of the best airports in their 10 million passenger category. Hyderabad also is a very nice city in terms of its heritage, its culture. So it offers people of different tastes, different kinds of recreations, multiple opportunities to participate in the social life, cultural life here. Next one, next slide, please. And we are very happy that Plug and Play has chosen Hyderabad, because in the last 7 years, we have also taken lots of steps to put together a very meticulously planned startup ecosystem. See, we all know that Silicon Valley is the gold standard when it comes to the startup ecosystem. And multiple governments across the globe have tried to emulate what happens in the Silicon Valley with spectacular failures. But I can share this with you that in Hyderabad, in Telangana, our government also have embarked on trying to replicate the best elements of Silicon Valley here. And our success rate is very, very strong. Like in the Silicon Valley, where top academic institutions like Stanford, Berkeley, Caltech, etc., support the startup world. In fact, they were some of the foundational reasons for the startup ecosystem getting so strong. The same is true of Hyderabad as well. Some of the best academic institutions here, like the IIT, the Triple IT, the Indian School of Business, the National Law School, all of these work together with the government to support startups. We have created amazing institutions. You can see some of them mentioned on this slide. T-Hub is country's largest innovation ecosystem, which combines an incubator, an accelerator, and also a funding conduit. V-Hub, which you see on the right of this slide, is country's first incubator dedicated exclusively to women entrepreneurs. T-Works is again something which is first of its kind. It is a large incubator, possibly the largest in the country, which is built on the lines of, let us say, maker space. It offers all kinds of prototyping facilities for hardware startups. And we also know that in India, while Hyderabad is a big city, there are similar other large metropolitan cities, but a lot of talent is available in smaller towns, even in villages. We typically tend to disregard all that, but in Telangana, we are also very conscious of the fact that talent is available aplenty, but it requires a particular eye and a particular mechanism to really refine them and bring them to the fore. So we have created a dedicated institution for that, which is called the Telangana State Innovation Cell. And for the last 4 or 5 years, they have done amazing programs to pull up some of the best talented people who otherwise would have been lost in the kind of commonness of a rural scenario or a rural life. So I'm very sure that Plug and Play will enrich the startup ecosystem that is available here. We have close to 6,600 plus startups in Hyderabad today. In fact, I remember 7 years ago when we had embarked on this journey of trying to recreate a Silicon Valley here, we had just 200 startups and 2 incubators. And as I mentioned, there are 6,600 plus startups in Hyderabad today, and close to 75 incubators, stroke accelerators, stroke co-working space. I can't imagine any other city in the world where the growth in terms of the quality and quantity is so phenomenal. And I'm very sure that Plug and Play will be able to fill some of the small gaps which still remain here. For instance, Mamta spoke about the opportunity to scale up. While there is agility in startups, but how quick can they scale up? What kind of corporate support do they get? We also are looking at possibilities of providing an international platform to some promising and bright startups from Hyderabad. If they have a product or solution which can potentially work well in other geographies like, let us say, the US or Europe or elsewhere, how can that conduit be provided? So we look at Plug and Play for filling some of these critical gaps in the startup landscape of Hyderabad. Next one, please. And we are very conscious of the fact that the pace of digitalization, particularly in the post-pandemic era, is going to be accelerated like never before. Fortunately, without even being aware that a pandemic is on the horizon, we have taken some early steps 4 or 5 years ago, which are going to stand us in very good stead. For instance, Telangana is very soon, maybe in a matter of 6 to 8 months from now, going to become the first Indian state where every household will be connected with optic fiber cable and therefore will be internet ready. We also have means or programs through which we are providing solutions to the most common citizen of Telangana, which are technology enabled, but which address their pain points. In fact, our Chief Minister and Minister, if the Minister were here today and if he was to speak, he would have surely mentioned this, that in our eyes, in the eyes of our leaders, no technology is worth it if it doesn't address the most pressing problems of the common citizens. So we have this very ambitious program called Digital Telangana, which you see on the screen. And in spheres like, let us say, agriculture, in healthcare, in education, in mobility, in government services, G2C services, we have rolled out multiple programs, each of which is targeted at helping the common citizen alleviate some of his challenges, some of the commonest pain points that he or she encounters. So there's a very good buy-in in the state at the grassroots level also about technology. And tomorrow, if we are able to identify startups which have good solutions to create a large social impact, the uptake of these kind of solutions will be very, very high. In fact, in our startup and innovation policy, we ourselves have promised that if there is a solution which is of relevance to the government, which has been created by a homegrown startup, then the government promises to be the first customer for that startup. As all of us would know, finding or acquiring the first customer is typically one of the biggest challenges for a startup, even more than getting funding, for instance. And in Telangana, we are perhaps the only state in the country today to give this guarantee, to give this assurance that if you have a solution which is of relevance to us, I will be your first customer. And again, I'm very proud to share with you that in the last 7 years or so, more than 50 such startup solutions have been onboarded in Telangana. And because we have given them their first work order, many other doors have got open for them subsequently based on the strength of their solution. So Plug and Play, I'm sure, will have a very, very fruitful, a very thriving journey here in Hyderabad. We look forward. I mean, we are, I don't know if this is going to be your office eventually or not, but in many ways, we are occupying the space that you are meant to occupy. We are waiting for the day when all of you will be able to come over to Hyderabad, physically populate this space, open the doors for startups, run some very, very exciting programs, collaborate with the rest of the innovation ecosystem partners, and we'll rejoice with your decision to really make your India entry through Hyderabad, and we'll feel very, very proud of your success. So very grateful to all of you, Saeed, Sasha, Shobhan and Hana and rest of your colleagues for reposing this faith on us, and hope to see you sometime soon here in Hyderabad. Thank you very much. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I would like to thank everybody. Hannah, yeah, you're going to say something.
I just wanted to say thank you for this really nice welcoming words from all our team, from Saeed, from Sopan, Sasha, Amir, Jordan, Anton, and the rest of the team. And we feel really warm welcome in India, and actually really excited about everything what's coming on the startup side, on the collaboration side. So thank you so much for hosting this event with us today. And with this, Amar, I think we're going.
Yeah. Well, I was going to thank all the participants. We were going to do a physical event and make sure that whoever comes here has some skin in the game. So they collaborate on this great platform that we are building and build some exciting startups for the future. That was the idea. But I think this is a great start. We introduced what we are, what is there for the future. So for all the people who are there on the call, we would like you to be plugged in. We're going to do a physical premiere event, maybe sometime in Jan, Feb, whenever the fears of the 4th, 5th, 6th or whatever wave, are behind us. I think we'll do a physical event. Then we will convene. We'll get you from Germany and from US, from France, from all over the world. We can do a really good event. We'll take it from there. And special thanks to our anchor partners here. Again, the two women here in the hall, Mamata and Vandana. Thank you again. And thank you, sir. And we also have our director automotive here, Gopal, who is going to be fostering the first vertical that we are supporting, the mobility. Slowly, we are going to expand into other verticals. But I think mobility is our focus now, and we're going to be focused on that for some time before we latch on to BFSI, IoT, technology, energy, and so on. So thanks, Gopal, for being here, and thank you everyone who is out there. I'm sure I'm not able to. I wouldn't be able to go through the list of 50, 60 people who joined the call. But thank you very much, Antoine. Yeah, I don't want to forget him. He's been a great source of help. Did I forget anyone, Hannah, from your side, our side? I'm sure we did, but thank you all.
The team, of course, what you mentioned, the most important ones. And a big thank you as well for the team on your side, on the operational side, setting up the whole room, cameras, sound, getting everything run smooth today. So big thank you for actually managing it from far away. So it was a nice collaboration.
Thank you.
Next year in person, hopefully, if everything works out.
Good night, good evening, good morning, whatever, guys over there around the globe. Bye.
Bye.
Very nice.
That was good. Yeah, మూడు వారాలు.
Oh, 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
Here in Hyderabad or going to come on?
Chennai. I'll go to Chennai and I'll be back.
So why don't you organize some get-together, dinner kind of more informal? We can call some of the other automotive players. As per a convenient date.
Yeah. We'll work it out. We'll figure something out for sure.
Ecosystem to just
Maybe we can do like something formal also. We can do some presentation.
okay. We can whichever way you can.
And by the end of this next year, or somewhere mid next year, Stellantis, we want to have our own building. Right now we are, as you know, part of Wipro.
Yes. We can certainly help you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.